As of me saying this, Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks are certainly underperforming. I hope they won't finish the season in the same position as they are currently 13th in the Western Conference. And they've actually lost their last 6 games too, with 2 losses coming against the Jazz and the Suns, and then a loss each against the Nuggets and the Houston Rockets. As a whole, they have had quite a tough schedule, but there's definitely some bad losses in there too, such as a loss against the Bulls and the Hornets. So are the Mavericks going to get over this hump, or is this something we should actually be worried about? And then later I'll just talk about Luka Doncic more specifically and whether he is still an elite player in the NBA. So first off, I think we need to actually take a look at the teams that the Dallas Mavericks have played and then look at the teams which they've lost to and beaten. And with me taking inspiration from Jimmy Highroller, take a look at this graph I made. So here is a graph with every team that the Mavericks have played so far this season, and I've ranked each team based on their win percentage in the entire NBA. So the Utah Jazz currently have the best record in the league, so they are rank 1. The Clippers have the second best record, so rank 2, and so on. And that black line is the 15th best team in the NBA, which is currently the San Antonio Spurs, and that's just the most average team. And as you can see, they've played more of their games against the most elite teams, as they've played 5 of the best 7 teams in the NBA, and they've played both the Nuggets and the Utah Jazz twice. So they have had one of the toughest schedules in the NBA, but let's see what games they've actually won and lost. So they lost both games against the Utah Jazz and their game against the Lakers. Where the bar is half red and half green though, that's just where the Mavericks have won one game and lost the other game. And then with the Phoenix Suns, they've actually played them 3 times but did lose all 3 games. And they have actually played the Bulls twice too, so they definitely should have won at least one of those games and probably 2. And their game against the Raptors, I believe they should have won as well, especially with how the Raptors are playing, but unfortunately Luka did have an off night with just 15 points and 36% from the field. But other than that, all their other losses aren't too bad. I would have liked to see them win at least one game against the Suns and maybe both Hornets games, but they haven't played terrible and nowhere near as bad as their record would make you believe. In their next 8 games though, they do have some weaker teams, as they're playing the Hawks twice and then the Timberwolves, Pelicans and the Pistons. As you can see, they're also playing the Warriors twice and the Blazers once, which are 2 of the stronger teams in the NBA. I do think they can take one of the games against the Warriors though, and if they play well enough, they could actually take the Blazers down too. So it's important to know that the Mavericks aren't really in a slump, as they have played some really tough teams, but they are still playing below average for me. Where the Mavericks don't really give me much hope though is they're not really competing against a lot of the big teams, which going into the playoffs really isn't a good sign. Because if they're not competing with any of the big teams, then they're going to be heading for a first round exit. They obviously do still have time to sort things out, as there is still about 50 games left in the season. If they are going to have any playoff success though, they need Kristaps to be healthy and get back to his all-star level. I'd also like to see some of their shooters shooting more efficiently, because as a team they're shooting 33% from 3, which is currently the worst in the entire league. Maxi Kleber, Trey Burke, Jalen Brunson and Tim Hardaway Jr. though are all shooting great from 3 and have free reign to shoot even more threes in my opinion. Finney Smith though needs to shoot better if he's taking over 5 threes a game, as 32% doesn't cut it for me. Porzingis as well, like I mentioned, 6 threes a game at 30% isn't quite good enough. Then Josh Richardson as well, 5 threes a game at 28%, not good enough. And then we got on to Luka Doncic, 29% from 3 with 7 attempts a game. And honestly, saying that just makes me sad, as Luka is one of my favourite players and that is a really poor stat for him. So let's now strictly talk about Luka Doncic and whether he is still one of the most elite players in the NBA. Now when you compare his stats from this season to last season, there really isn't much in it. He's averaging 1.5 less points a game, same steals, rebounds and assists, and then slightly less turnovers and personal fouls. Obviously that 1.5 points a game really doesn't mean much, and all the other stats are basically the same. And his 3-point percentage was only 31.6% last season, but we consider Luka a good shooter. Because I'm sure if you told a lot of fans that Luka didn't even shoot 32% from 3 last season, they would be quite surprised. But the thing is, Luka has never been an efficient 3-point shooter, and it's because he takes so many tough shots. A lot of the threes that he takes are off the dribble setbacks, and with him being so young, we tend to just look over the flaws in his game. And obviously Luka is an incredible talent in the NBA. I have him in my top 5 right now, and I feel like most people have him in their top 10 at least. But he is still very much human, and there is still a lot of improvement that he can make. Now over time, Luka will obviously become a far better 3-point shooter, and I think his 3-point percentage will eventually go into the high 30s and even into the 40s. Because in 5 years time, imagine how much better he'll be at these contested threes and even off the catch and shoot. And what's important to remember is that the Mavericks know they're not contenders for this season. They're not like the Brooklyn Nets, who have to get a championship this season or the next season, or they're just an absolute failure. Because the Brooklyn Nets, for example, after Kyrie, James Harden and Kevin Durant leave, they have absolutely nothing. They have no young talent and no draft picks left now. But the Mavericks are built for the next decade or so with Luka Doncic, and if I can judge him very well at all, then I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. And what is most important for Luka Doncic is for him to just keep developing as a player and getting better and better, as he is the key of this franchise. So if that means Luka is going to shoot contested threes and only make 30% of them, then so be it. With that being said though, I don't think he should take straight up bad shots, and I do think he should lower his number of contested threes. But it's important to keep in mind that the Mavericks are building for the future and building Luka Doncic for the future. And I feel like this is a very popular opinion, but I think Luka is going to stay at the Mavericks his entire career and eventually bring a championship back to Dallas. And eventually he'll reach the legacy of Dirk Nowitzki, and people will be talking about who was better all time out of Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki. I hope you've really enjoyed watching. Please like if you've enjoyed watching, and I'll see you on my next video.